Welcome to Tuesday. It's February 11th and it's 2025. A lot of you waking up to some very, very cold temperatures. And boy, it's really cold in a few areas. We'll show you those here in a minute. The Arctic air gets deeper and deeper today, tonight, tomorrow, and into early Thursday morning. So it's going to be bitterly cold. There will be a lot of you today and tomorrow that don't get above zero, especially across Montana, parts of central and northern Wyoming, a lot of the Dakotas, extremely cold. In the Pacific Northwest, it usually doesn't get that cold in the winter. Well, you're very cold right now. We're going to see snow developing as the day wears on across parts of southern Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, down into the Texas-Oklahoma panhandles as the Arctic air is overrun by Pacific moisture. Now, during the day Thursday, there'll be some moderation in temperatures Thursday and Friday, especially in what we call the Chinook zones. Remember, when Arctic air begins to move off the east slopes of the Rockies, there's going to be some moderation in temperatures, but also a little bit of wind. I don't see the wind as being as bad as what we had last week, but there's going to be some wind and blowing snow problems, especially I-80 Thursday and Friday. Keep that in mind, travelers. Then we're going to see a couple of systems bring Pacific moisture into the region. This will produce a round of mountain snow and some snow on the plains Friday and Saturday. Another mountain snow event comes in late Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday, maybe a little bit of light snow on the plains. Now, by then, the deep, bitter cold Arctic air will not be here, but it really won't be all that warm either, and we'll be fighting some wind in some areas. So we are going to have some bad travel conditions over the next 5 to 7 days at times. So keep that in mind, plan ahead. Beautiful photos coming in. Nice shot there over at Rabbit Ears Pass after some fresh snow. Down in Fremont Pass area near Leadville, Colorado. Good news for down there. Snow is coming back, as you'll see here in a moment. And some nice striations in the clouds. Nice shot here from Chris flying near the Colorado Springs there. You see these striations. We've got a lot of winds aloft going like this, causing these ripples like this. If you look really closely, you can see just tons of texture there. It's amazing not only to view the clouds from below, but from above, you get a whole new perspective. And in the very cold upper Green River Basin, it's sundog season. And boy, there'll be a lot of sundogs, I think, if you go out and look today, especially in areas where there will be some sun in the deep, deep Arctic air, as you'll see in a minute where it is. And here's a shot from the prairies near Cheyenne. All the snow's melted away. The snow's coming back, and puffy little clouds there, very low to the ground. That was the leading edge of some of the Arctic air beginning to move into the area yesterday. Some low stratus clouds began to form. Speaking of stratus clouds, there you can see them, that big patch of blue right here. This really shows very well what's going on. Arctic air has spilled down the Front Range of Colorado into northeast New Mexico and the panhandles here. And we also have an upslope wind that is developing into here, causing a low deck of stratus clouds to form, very, very low to the ground. So very soupy, some flurries and fog and a low stratus deck there. And then you see these striations in the clouds. This is the Pacific air aloft coming over on top of this blue area. And this blue area you see, and we'll extend it back a little bit further here like this, is where the overrunning will be taking place today. Pacific air overrunning the Arctic air. And when you go and take a different perspective with the satellite image, you can really see the upslope conditions very well over a wide area. So from a pilot perspective, a lot of IFR conditions out on the high plains. Now take a look at these temperatures. I want you to look at temperatures all across the area. We've got single digits down into Colorado, down into northwest Kansas here. It's gotten cold, some cold air spilling west of the divide. But if you look at temperatures across northern Wyoming, 10 to 18 degrees below zero. I'm sure there are some areas that are well below 20 below zero up there. But look at these temperatures up in Canada and Saskatchewan. Minus 38, minus 35, minus 32 in Wolf Point. But look at this. That is a real data point. Minus 42, the air temperature. That does not include wind chill right at the U.S.-Canadian border. So that's Minus 40 is when pure water freezes. So you're talking about severe cold. You may say, well, where is that? Well, that is a little place called Val Marie. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation or not, but all the 120 people in Val Marie, Saskatchewan, enjoying a minus 42 morning. So if you think it's cold where you are, it's not as bad compared to there. And if we look a little bit further south, you can see an easterly, northeasterly flow. Easterly here, northeasterly as the cold air comes down. That's a good old-fashioned blue norther headed towards Texas. And this is why. This is as 11 a.m. this morning. The big ridge builds up in the Gulf of Alaska, carving out the low into the west. And the push of the bitter cold Arctic air right here is getting directed a little bit to the south-southwest. So as it settles in and gets deeper, the next 48 hours will be severely cold as it holds through tomorrow afternoon. And you can see the colors. You see the green getting pushed further south. This is where the cold air really begins to spill out into the plains, heads towards the Great Lakes and the Northeast. Here is the westerly Pacific flow interacting with the Arctic air. Look at these temperature anomalies by tomorrow. This is close to the noon hour mountain time tomorrow. It's noon Central Time, and see all the purple and the green and the blue spreading out across a large portion of the central and western United States. Still very cold back here in the Pacific Northwest. The cold getting all the way into Canada, chilly back into Arizona as the cold air spills in. Now the interaction between the Pacific moisture and the Arctic air, the overrunning I talked about, you can see it kind of gets started in the mountains and spills out across the plains. So this will be a widespread light to moderate snow event, while the amounts of moisture in a lot of areas will be about 0.2 to 1/4 to 0.3 of an inch. This is over the next 48 hours. So it's not a lot of water content, but it's better than nothing. And when it's cold like this, the snow crystals stack up higher, so we get the fluffy snow. So a lot of those areas in the green shading, you're going to get a couple, 3, 4, 5 inches, but heavier amounts out here from northwest Kansas along the Nebraska border into southwest Iowa. Here you can see that Pacific moisture coming on into the region. But you might be thinking, well, why isn't it raining and snowing here? It's because the Pacific air is not deep enough yet, but it's also not going into the overrunning. The Arctic air, the deep Arctic air, can't get on the other side of the divide. And that's what the snowfall between now and Wednesday morning looks like. So over the next 24 to 48 hours, those areas you'll have a widespread covering of light to moderate snow accumulations. Then as we get into the end of the week, on Friday, notice it's a more westerly flow. So there will be relief from the bitter cold because there's more of a Pacific influence, although there's still a west-northwest flow aloft here. This next trough will bring in Pacific moisture, bring in a nice dose of snow to the mountains, and there will be areas of light snow and snow showers coming along and east of the Continental Divide as well. Notice we've got another system up here, and the Arctic air mass is getting stretched out west to east like this. And what will happen is on the Arctic boundary, the polar front, so to speak, you'll get these waves that form right along the contrast between the warmer air in the southern latitudes and the colder air from the northern latitudes. So this is just a good way to cause fronts and storms to form in the North Pacific, then ripple their way through the U.S. west to east. So this is going to make for an active pattern across the United States. By Sunday, that system moves quickly through, drags Arctic air back into the northern plains and the Great Lakes again. And here's the next wave that comes in early next week. So there's more waves coming. This wave will come in Monday and Tuesday. It'll be followed by another wave that's back here towards the middle to the end of next week. So this is the second round of precipitation. This is what comes late Friday into Saturday and Sunday. Heavy precipitation in California. That'll bring heavy snow to the Sierras. Could have some heavy rain in central and southern California. Then finally down here, you're going to get some moisture. Finally for Arizona, even Las Vegas, St. George, you're getting into we talked about the southwest mountains of Colorado, finally getting into the act. So as we get into that Friday, Saturday, Sunday time frame, finally seeing a more south push of moisture, which we haven't seen this winter. That's a trend we're going to see continuing as we go into March. Storms starting to track further south. So you can see there's a bias here more west of the divide with this Pacific moisture, but we do have some moisture getting out into the plains late Friday and into the day on Saturday. So travelers will need to keep that in mind. And there's the second batch of snow. You can see heavy snow in the mountains. So the high country will do well. This is going to boost the snowpack, which needs a boost in many areas, especially those southern areas. Then between now and Sunday, across the nation, very snowy, snowing in a lot of the U.S. and getting pretty far south in the really deep, cold Arctic air that's so dry, just light amounts of snow. But you can see the snow is forming where the collision of air masses is, right along I-70 and I-80 through the Great Lakes in the northeastern United States and the northern Appalachia. Snowpack update. Anywhere you see green or blue, snowpacks are in good shape. The green means you're above 90%. Blue means you're well above 100%. The yellow means 70s and 80s. So we've got a lot of green now. The snowpacks in western Wyoming have all gotten to 100% or better. You can see where the path of the storms have been the best, which has been really focused on Idaho, Oregon, Northern California. But notice snowpacks aren't as good in Colorado, Utah, and further south. So basically south of Interstate 80, snowpacks aren't as good. However, we will see some good snow here over the next week to 10 days in these areas and further south to help out. So we'll probably see these numbers improve, especially probably in this area right here as the systems continue to track a little bit more to the south. There's the system coming in late Monday and Tuesday. This one behind it probably arrives around Friday and Saturday of next week as that west-east gradient of cold air gets stretched out from the Pacific all the way up here to the far northeastern areas of Canada. So along this boundary, there will be a lot of weather systems rippling on through. But the real deep, bitter cold Arctic air we're seeing now will be more focused to the north and east. So temperatures aren't going to be as bad. But if you take a look over the next 7 days, the temperature anomaly between now and through next Tuesday, a week from today, looks like this across the lower 48. So for most of you, it's still going to be colder than average. Have yourself a great Tuesday. We'll talk to you on Hump Day Wednesday.